get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Eli Rubel. You can check him out, Profit Labs. It's profit-labs.co. You can check him out there. Eli, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Big shout out to Duncan Alney. Duncan Alney actually introduced us. Firebelly, he has a great show, Firebelly Marketing Show. And he helps CPG companies, beverage companies grow on social. Check out that episode. It's a really good one. Also, Jason Swank was another good one. Jason Swank, I had 2 episodes with him. Eli, actually, one was he built his agency to 8 figures and sold it. And then the second is he actually built a group, agency mastermind, Agency 360, because he wished he had that when he was an agency owner. So he kind of built that up. And he talks about some really cool, interesting concepts like the North Star of a company and how that kind of directed him. And Todd Taskey is another good one. Todd Taskey, I don't know, Eli, if you've seen his podcast, the Second Bite podcast. So he pairs agencies with private equity, and he helps sell agencies essentially. And he calls it the second bite because sometimes when they sell and they roll equity in, and they get a second bite of the apple when the private equity sells again. So he's got some great stories of agencies selling and, kind of the ups and the downs as well. So check that out. The episode I did with him on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise25. Rise25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that in a few ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, accountability, and the full execution production. We get people on podcasts. Also, we're an easy button for a company's corporate gifting. So we make gifting and staying top of minds. It could be clients, partners, prospects, staff. You give us their addresses. We do a campaign. So it's not like one gift. We do usually a series of 3 to 4 gifts per year for 3 to 4 years. And so, Eli, we like to call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background, make it stress-free for companies so they can build amazing relationships. For me, over the past decade, the biggest thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways how I can give to my best relationships, and I've found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I admire, share with them, with the world, what they're working on in the podcast, also send them sweet treats in the mail. So you can check us out, rise25.com, or email us to support@rise25.com. I'm excited to introduce Eli Rubel. He started and run multiple companies from SaaS to agencies. Now he runs Profit Labs, which I mentioned, which is a bookkeeping and strategic finance firm for agency owners. He had over $10 million in agency profit since 2020. And people follow him to learn more about building a profitable agency. He was founder and CEO of Glider, which was acquired, started Matter Made. They've worked with companies like Dropbox, Loom, Yelp, Calm, and he also started NoBoringDesign because he has not enough to do with the family and kids and other businesses, which is a go-to design agency for, they help portfolio companies at Sequoia Capital, A16Z, Y Combinator, and many others. Eli, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's start off with just talk about Profit Labs and what you do, and we'll dig into some of the learnings as you do that. I'm going to pull up your website since there will be a video here, but talk about Profit Labs.
Yeah, absolutely. So Profit Labs, it took me a while to figure out what I think I'm meant to do with my time here in the working world. And after building a variety of businesses, the thing that kept coming back to me as a challenge was visibility into the business, like true visibility, really feeling like I could wrap my arms around the business from a financial perspective and understand all the ins and outs, what's going on, forecasting forward and planning for various scenarios. And it just always felt like there were so many fires and there was so much stuff going on in the business that it was hard to ever take that step backwards and get organized enough to have that level of clarity. And so I ended up building my dream solution when I was scaling Glider, and realized that most of the other agency owners that I talked to didn't have that same level of clarity. And so I also around that time, it developed a passion for just hanging out with other entrepreneurs and talking about how we can make our businesses more profitable. And so I ended up combining these two concepts, this passion for helping other business owners make their agencies as profitable as possible, and this passion for bringing financial clarity to digital business owners. And so that's why I started Profit Labs. We do bookkeeping, accounting. We provide dashboards that give true financial visibility, profitability by client, forecasting, scenario planning, all the things that I think every agency owner probably would love to have if they had the time. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't end up having the time. So that's what we do.
One of the things I love about the interviews, Eli, is I get to hear about people, not just the high points, but like the challenging times, the lessons learned. I feel it's like kind of entrepreneurial therapy, because like when I see someone who's super successful, you always think, nothing, everything they touch turns to gold. And so I'd love for you to talk about, even with all of your experience, we were talking before we hit record, on how you screwed up the launch of Profit Labs.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're totally right there. I think more podcast episodes should be about the failure track than the success track, just because it's more entertaining, frankly, and probably a lot more relatable for everybody, because we've all been there. So yeah, I felt like I had a pretty good playbook when going into launching Profit Labs. I had two great agency successes prior to that with Matter Made and NoBoringDesign. So I was like, okay, I've got this. Follow the playbook. And I spent 6 months building up my audience on LinkedIn so that I had a good following of agency owners that were engaged. And when I launched, no problem booking sales calls. We had like 14 sales calls booked in the first 2 days. So things felt like they were going to go great. And then it just totally fell flat on its face. The messaging wasn't right. The pricing wasn't right. The packaging wasn't right. And it took me 14 sales calls to realize all of that. And a bit of ego swallowing too, for sure. And so, yeah, I kind of had this moment of decision where I actually was chatting with some of my CEO friends who also run agencies. And I was like, maybe I'll shut it down. Like, I don't know. It just is like, maybe the market fit isn't there. I have a kind of a hypothesis of what it needs to be: messaging, positioning, packaging, and pricing, if I were to continue on, but maybe it's just not worth it. And one of my good buddies, who's part of this group, his name's Jason Iachi. He's like one of the most badass recruiters out there, runs a really great recruiting firm for top level exec talent. They place people at like Groons and AG1 and all these crazy legit companies. So anyway, he was like, man, I feel like you owe it to yourself. You've been so excited about this. You're so passionate about this problem space. Give it 10 sales calls. Like, don't let yourself give up until you've given it 10 more sales calls with a new messaging, new positioning, new packaging, new pricing. And so I like did a little sprint, revamped the pricing, revamped all those other things, had my first sales call later that day. Actually, I'd already kind of revamped the stuff, but I just hadn't published it. So I published it. First sales call was later that day after the meeting with Jason and some other buddies. And it was a 1-call close the deal right there. So I was like, okay, this feels good. But maybe it's a fluke. And so then the next day had another sales call. That one took 2 days to close, but it was essentially a 2-call close. And at that point, I love sales. I don't know. It's one of those things that's like weird to admit, because I think sales has such a stanky reputation historically, but man, it fires me up. And so once I could kind of taste
I guess I like how you said that, but like I visualize sales personally, because people have this hang up with sales, or the word sales.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. You don't. I just almost insert helping people with sales. So like when I'm thinking of sales, I'm just thinking, how do I help this person? And if what I have is not a fit for them, that's cool. And so that gets me in the mindset of like it's not as, you know, off limits, I guess. So
Totally, 100%. And that's, I think it's much easier for me to have that level of conviction right now with this business, with Profit Labs, because I'm hearing people who are the same profile as I am, agency owner, trying to make the business as profitable and stable as possible, create a good work environment, all these things, have a good lifestyle balance. And I'm hearing them say all of the same problems that I've lived and that I've solved. And so that when I'm in a sales call, I just get fired up because I'm like, yes, like all I need to do is make it clear to them that this will be a solved problem if they say yes to me. And then my team is going to go solve that problem for them or problem set. And so, yeah, it just fires me up. So anyway, I got those first 2 deals closed. And at that point I was game on. Gave me a bunch of energy. We're still really early days. So that pivot came, I want to say 2 months ago. We had 0 customers at the time. And now this month we should hit 30K in MRR. And these are all like recurring subscription-based revenue. Our plans start at $2,500 a month and go up from there. Get as fancy as having like a fractional CFO, FP&A function, all of these things. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited. Things are starting to hum, but man, I messed up the start. We probably lost 2 or 3 months worth of the year that could have been high quality sales conversations just based on me screwing the launch up. So you live and you learn.
I want to get a little granular with what you said, right? So like we can look, if you're listening, there's a video piece, right? And we can go on the website here and we can see the messaging now. So I'm curious, I want to hear what the wrong messaging was. Like obviously the website's going to reflect your learnings here, but you can see here some of the messaging, stuff you hate, which I can relate to this. Bookkeeping, accounting, client invoicing, chasing down late payments, paying bills, stuff you rarely do, tracking margin by customer, scenario models for staffing changes, profit models and growth forecasts, advanced financial reporting. All right. What was the messaging before that was not hitting home?
Yeah. So one component of what we do is we help visualize stuff that otherwise would be stuck in spreadsheets and, QuickBooks data in a really beautiful, much more easy to understand format so that leadership teams who might otherwise, their eyes, a lot of agency folks I talk to, like their eyes, myself included, actually, back in the day, my eyes would gloss over when I'd see a spreadsheet. I'm like, okay, but just tell me, like, what's the point? What am I supposed to be gleaning from this? What's the story that the data is telling me? And so one of the components of what we offer is are these dashboards that make it really simple to get to the point with the data rather than staring at a spreadsheet. And I think I overemphasize that in our messaging and on the site with our screenshots and put that front and center. And people thought we were a software product. And so that I think was probably the biggest component of what was causing.
So they thought, okay, you plug in your stuff, spreadsheets, QuickBooks, whatever data you have, and you get the spreadsheet or you get this nice dashboard and good luck with it.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. So I had to almost flip the messaging and the positioning to be, we are a bookkeeping and accounting firm that only works with agency businesses. Most agencies I talk to are working with a bookkeeper or an accountant that they're an SMB provider. So they work with any vertical. They might be helping the bakery down the street and your agency business. And so the reality is that they don't have the deep industry expertise to provide guidance and support in the way that an agency, we run this pretty specific business, whether you're running a creative firm, design firm, advertising firm, marketing firm, recruiting firm, PR firm, like any of these categories, the way that we manage labor costs and the way that we have to like load balance labor based on, client bandwidth. There's just so many nitty gritty things that I fundamentally believe it makes sense to have a partner supporting you for the same price as any of these other generic SMB providers, but that only focuses on agency. So I needed to put that at the forefront and then say, and we also will give you a beautiful dashboard, and we'll also give you a fractional CFO, and we'll also, so it just the pyramid of the messaging was upside down initially.
So what we're looking at here, Eli, is kind of more of a explanation so people understand. So it's agency bookkeeping, client invoicing, chasing down late payments, bill payment. So you guys will help with all these things.
Yep, we will manage it all.
So how does the chasing down late payments work?
Great question. So whenever a client onboards with us, an agency client, what we do is we sit down with them and have a consultation where we develop an escalation plan for late payments. And so the way that works is every company is a little bit different with how aggressive or not aggressive they want to be with their clients. And so it'll either be a 3 or 5 step sequence that the language escalates each time and gets a little bit more serious. And then at some point, there's some sort of flag in place where we escalate it internally to the agency owner to say, hey, you might want to pick up the phone and call them as a last ditch effort before you either let this one go or send it to collections or whatever. Every agency handles it a bit differently. But we manage that 3 to 5 step sequence and the escalation plan and monitoring it so that as the agency owner, you never have to wonder, is somebody paying attention to which clients are paying, which clients aren't? Has somebody reminded them? Maybe they just didn't get a reminder. Like none of that stuff you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
I could see that being one reason why people come with, go to you right off the bat, just from like a huge value proposition. If someone has a bunch of X amount of dollars and, late payments, they're chasing down money and like, okay, if we could hire this, forget about the rest of it. I mean, I'm sure it's beneficial, but that would be enough value I could see in a company just to do it just for that one bullet. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but
yeah, I call it just being stuck in the weeds. So many of us agency owners, it's easy to, we feel like we can do it faster than anyone else, whatever that it is. And so it's easy to get sucked back into the minutia of the business. And a lot of that minutia ends up being financial admin work that shouldn't be like, that's not, I would almost guarantee that any agency owner, their zone of genius, the thing that gets them fired up and that they're best at and that helps grow their business is not chasing clients for late payments or managing any of that, paying bills, financial admin, payroll reconciliation, any of these things. Like, that doesn't get any of us out of bed, I would guess.
I'm going to throw one other thing out there to add to this list. Just put it on the Kanban board or whatever you do. But I think a chargeback. I was talking to an agency owner and a client that they serviced in a great way, charged back several payments. It felt like the story felt so criminal, like the person just did it because they could do it. So yeah, if you add that to your service line, I'm sure you'll get a ton of people like, this person's so criminal. So anyways, I felt for them when they were telling me the story. So maybe in the future, who knows, Profit Labs will be like, they'll chase down the criminal people that charge you back.
We'll show up on
your hard-earned money.
Like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
It's often, yeah, exactly. It's often a big milestone from a first client perspective. So again, you've been through this rodeo many times, but talk about the first client of Profit Labs.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one I'm really proud of. I think in agency land, time to value is super critical. And a lot of these financial partners that I've worked with in the past and just folks sign up with, they have a long onboarding process, right? There's a lot to ingest. There's a lot to, get signed into all the bank accounts and all the things that we need access to. And so it can very easily be the case of, hey, I sign up, I wait 30 days to just get all the technical onboarding done before like you're even seeing the right data. And then, another 30 days before you're seeing any dashboards, and another 30 days before, and it's just like delay after delay after delay. And so with our first client, she came to us with a very specific problem, like top of mind problem. She goes, hey, I've got X number of people that I'm considering letting go. Some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, some of them are, like a certain number of hours. And then there's some people I want to hire. And then on top of that, we have some clients that are swapping out, some new clients they're signing up. And it was about to go into, I think it was the 4th of July holiday weekend. And she was like, I'm just really stressed out and I don't have clarity on what to do. And that's kind of where I'm at. And so I said, hey, listen, like we do need to do our technical onboarding and get all of that right. But why don't we, rather than waiting for that to happen, why don't we have you hop on with your fractional CFO tomorrow? Let's get them the few documents that they need access to tonight. And tomorrow afternoon, we can come with a recommendation and a simple financial model that's going to show you exactly what each of those scenarios that you're considering would mean for the bottom line of the business, so that you can toggle on like, oh, what if this person stayed and this person didn't? Or what if, any one of these, what if this client signs before, July 10th, and what if they don't? These sorts of things. And so we met with her that next afternoon, and I feel like you can just see it when someone, especially a business owner, when a business owner gets that thing that they've been like chewing on in their head and it's been keeping them up at night, and they finally like see the path that they want to pursue. It's just like a weight gets lifted off their shoulders. And I saw that in her. And at the end of the call, she was like, guys, this was so helpful. Like, I just feel like I can go into the holiday weekend with my family relaxed. I know what we're going to do now. This is incredible. And so that for me was just such a fun first win with the first client. And I think sets a good tone for the types of moments that I want all of our clients to have when they're onboarding with us and throughout the relationship.
It just gave that person the clarity they needed to make decisions.
Exactly.
I love to talk about the team for a second. And early on, with the first business, with Glider was a SaaS business. I can't remember. Did you raise money for that business?
Yeah, that one was venture funded.
So for this one, what was the thought of, because, you obviously previously have scaled up businesses quickly. Mm-hmm. How did you handle that for Profit Labs? For like, okay, I'm going to bootstrap this, raise money, and knowing, I don't know, what the team was going to look like initially, knowing you were going to grow the team. Yeah,
absolutely. Ever since going the VC route the first time, which I'm super grateful for that experience. I mean, my background before that, I didn't go to business school. I actually was an art school dropout. I was waiting tables in Los Angeles trying to make it as a starving artist, and had what I call my quarter life crisis, where I quit my job and moved into my mom's basement in Portland, Oregon, where flood with water in the winter. And I told myself I wasn't allowed to leave the basement until I'd started a company, because I realized after reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss that there was a path in the business world for misfits like me, who didn't fit the schooling mold and who didn't fit the whatever mold, but that we could still be successful commercially. And I saw that as a path to the life and the freedom that I wanted for myself and my future family. And so the idea that an investor would hand me a check 6 months after quitting my table waiting job, to go build something. And really, like, if we read between the lines, they're writing a check for me to go learn how to do business and learn how to build something with the hopes that it provides a return for them. So I'm so grateful for that experience. Having said that, I love the freedom, and I would never go back to that model now of bootstrapping and, self-funding and using the profit from the business to scale the business and not ever looking for outside capital. I just think there's a lot of freedom and relaxation that can be had in that space because you're not accountable to anybody. If you want to pump the brakes for 6 months and kind of coast, you can. And if you want to go super hard for a year, you can. Like, it's just anything is possible. If you want to stop working on Wednesdays, that's totally fine too. It's like you're in control of everything. And so for me, that aligns really well for the lifestyle that I've created for myself and for my family. And I couldn't go back.
So early on, again, I want to talk about the other agencies too, and like what are the things you did to step away, right?
Yeah.
Because that allows you to do what you're doing now with Profit Labs. But what's the kind of hiring or team trajectory with Profit Labs?
Yeah, I mean, we are in the process of right now, our team is 4 people that are fully remote offshore, and then 3 people who are based in LATAM. I'm a big fan of nearshore offshore. I just love the quality of talent that you can give to clients for a really reasonable price. I mean, all of the finance managers and fractional CFOs that we're offering to our clients have a master's in finance. They've been, had multiple stints as CFOs or FP&A leaders across like a variety. A lot of them come from backgrounds like the Big Four. So, and to do that with stateside talent, candidly, like nobody would pay the price. Very few people would be willing to pay the prices that we would have to charge to offer the exact same level of quality, but just with someone in the US. So I'm a big proponent of finding the best talent and compensating them really well with labor arbitrage like that. So yeah, it's we're in the process of hiring 2 more folks right now, and it's exciting times.
Eli, for you, and I know, at what point did you bring the people on? Were you like, okay, I have them in the, I'm actually interviewing people, knowing when I get these first few customers, I'll hire them, or you're like, listen, I have a little bit of capital, I'll invest it, and I'll hire these people ahead of time, knowing I'm going to make some sales. How did that timeline work?
Yeah, so I got to cheat a little bit, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So because I own multiple businesses, those businesses they were already spending money on a bookkeeping accounting firm. So I knew from day 0, even before launch, that I could transition those accounts over to Profit Labs to kind of give it some real cash flow without negatively impacting my other businesses, because they were just writing checks to some other agency that was managing finances before them. And that was a total shit show. So it was great to get off of there and bring it over to Profit Labs. So that provided a good pop of initial revenue that paid for the first couple of hires. And then the other way that I get to cheat a little bit is I have a management company, which, hand wavy terms, it's basically I took all of the leaders across each discipline that I love so much from the other businesses. So I have a head of sales, I have a head of operations, head of talent acquisition, I have my EA. And so everybody sits, those folks, those roles where they're kind of universally applicable. Rather than just having them sit in one company, I have them sit in the management company, and they're able to essentially provide fractional services to each of the companies that I have in the portfolio. And so that allowed me to have, incredible hiring, talent acquisition chops from day one, have incredible operational chops from day one, sales chops, all these things. So that was also a way where I was on the books, there was basically very little cost. And in reality, I had a very senior 5-person team from day 0. So that's a little bit an unfair advantage that I've created for myself.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's helpful to hear because, obviously, like we're already spent allocating this amount of dollars across these companies for this type of service. And so if we just allocate it to hiring people and doing this internally, I mean, um, as long as you're starting a separate business out of it, because if someone wasn't, then it's just a lot of time, energy, money. They could just like outsource it. And that's why people hire agencies like your agencies that have to
Yeah.
manage all those pieces. But in
Yeah.
this case, since you're like, listen, I'm going to be launching this service, it made sense to kind of allocate that to a team. So you already kind of had it allocated, and that's kind of funds the startup phase of this
Yep.
business. Yeah, that's helpful to hear. I'm curious, going back, it could be with No Boring Design, it could be Matter Made. Obviously, you're still the owner, but you've stepped away from those businesses. I don't know which one would be the most instructive to talk about. Maybe the first one that you did, like the steps you took to actually step away, because obviously this is your baby, you've worked on it, and
Yeah.
then you're now, okay, I'm stepping away. So what were some of the key things you did to now you're the owner, you're not working in the business anymore?
Yeah, I'll use No Boring Design for the example just because that was the most recent one that I stepped away from. So it's fresh in my mind. And I stepped away. I stepped away at the end of last year. And that was a hard one to step away from because the business was thriving, growing. The leadership team was amazing. Like I got energy from showing up to meetings with this leadership team. And so I knew that it was the right path for me personally to step away because I felt a little bit stagnant, like I'd done this before and I wanted a new challenge. Um, but like everything else was telling me stay. This is like super fun. Things are going great. Just continue basically having fun time with this team and growing the company. Ultimately, I chose to stay true to what I knew was best as a next step for me in my own career. And so I'm a big proponent of promoting from within. If there are people who rise to the occasion and show you what they've got and their level of dedication and just work ethic over time, I'd much rather give someone who's on paper not as qualified as someone you might hire externally a real shot at something than hiring externally. And so um, the woman who's running No Boring Design now, she actually started off as my EA 3 years prior to taking over, and she just from day one was top caliber and just would always go above and beyond and built trust with the team really early on, and then started basically I knew that if I got hit by a bus, everything would be fine. And so yeah, I felt really, really good about giving Bea the opportunity. And in typical Bea fashion, I asked her, I said, hey, I want to hire someone to run this business. Um, would you be interested in that? And she said, I remember this. She said, like, I'll go wherever you need me the most. She's like, if it's most helpful for me to follow you to the next business and continue in the capacity I am, I'll do that. If it's most helpful for me to run this business and let you go do that other thing, I'll do that. And I thought that was just a testament to the character and personality that had me interested in creating that opportunity for her in the first place. Um, so then, logistically speaking, we had a team offsite in Mexico, about 2 hours outside of Mexico City, where we flew everyone in from all the different countries they live in, and talked about, did a retro for the year, did a retro for Q4, talked about plans for next year, and then I announced that Bea was going to be taking over. Um, and it was one of these things where she already had built so much trust with the leadership team by being on it, that
It was a
everyone,
natural transition.
yeah, nobody was surprised. Everyone was excited. And she, in Q1 of this year, she had grown 136% over the prior quarter. It was like an insane, I mean, she just pedal to the metal, and continues to do really well. So yeah, that's the most recent one.
Talk about mistakes you find agencies make, and this could be ones you made in Matter Made and in No Boring Design, or just obviously you are working with a lot of agencies with Profit Labs. What are some of the key mistakes that you see coming across your desk?
Yeah. So, I mean, aside from the one that I'm most passionate about, which is that I feel like people just don't have the clarity that they need. Um, I think there's a tendency. So the market changes, right? Sometimes we'll be in a bullish market and everything's, money's flying all over the place. Clients are signing up left and right. And then sometimes the market retracts and there's nothing that we can really do about that to some extent. So in some scenarios, of course, there are things we can do about it. But if it's a macro level shift in buyer behavior, you might be able to optimize a little bit, but you just kind of have to call a spade a spade. And I think a lot of agency owners, myself included, this was one of the most painful business experiences. It was probably the single most painful business experience that I've gone through. Was in 2021. Times were great. VC tech money was all over the place. It was like a cash booth. Grabbing. And then in 2022, it was, I think they called it like the VC tech winter. And all of the VCs were like, fire all of your agencies. You need to have at least 2 years worth of cash in the bank and basically prepare to let go most of your team. And that's when we saw a ton of layoffs for anybody who remembers or is around that industry in 22, 23, even into a bit of 24, we started to recover. I held on to the team for way too long. I thought, oh, this is just temporary. We've been through bumps before. And I just justified and justified and justified and got to a place where the business we went from 4.2 million in EBITDA in 2021 to lighting on fire $200,000 of cash every month in 2022 until I'd course corrected. So I think, I probably burned around $1 million that could have been profit by simply putting my head in the sand and believing that, oh, it's going to change next month. Oh, it's going to change next month. And so I think to get back to your question, staying closely in touch with team utilization and having some rules in place whereby, if team utilization, I have a rule of thumb. If team utilization falls below 75% and stays there for more than 3 months, which I think is very generous, then you cut the bottom performers within the company and you cut enough of them such that it brings the utilization of the company up to 85 or 90%. And I think a lot of folks just either aren't willing to do it, don't have enough clarity to do it, or are tricking themselves into believing that, shiny hope is right around the corner next month and just hold on a little longer. So I think that's a really common agency challenge and mistake that a lot of us have made.
What I predicted you were going to say, okay, was time tracking. Not doing time tracking, which relates to the utilization piece, because I know you posted something about this. Yep. And you got some pushback from people. And someone, I guess, wouldn't know their utilization unless they do time tracking.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yep.
What are some other strong stances like that? Or I don't know, strong, time tracking is one of them, obviously, that you're like, listen, this is a must. What are some of the other things that you talk about?
Price sensitivity testing, like price elasticity. I know for a fact that the majority of agency owners will set their prices, get into a good sales cadence, and then leave their prices alone because it's working. Like, why would you mess with it? And I think the reality is we all have no idea what people are willing to pay until we reach a wall of no's. And it's very much worth it, especially in the agency model, to test pricing. And the reason I say especially in the agency model is because, we're in the business of delivering a service. At least for now, all of that service is powered by majority human talent and then some mix of not human talent. Um, so that means we have a capacity, a natural capacity within the business. And most agencies will bounce between, oh my gosh, we're like totally at capacity and we're drowning. And then like, holy crap, we're totally underutilized and we need more sales. And it's just this like ping pong until, the agency owner sells the business or, just pulls all the hair out. So, that that ping ponging creates a natural opportunity to test pricing because when we're at capacity, we really can't say yes to any more deals without it really screwing things up. And so that's a perfect opportunity to create an environment where you might start hearing some no's in your sales process. So what I like to do is anytime we're nearing capacity, it depends on the type of business. I'll either double pricing from what it is, or I'll increase it by 50%, like a meaningful step. And the way that I coach people and myself included to do this is if the price that you're going to put down as the increased price doesn't make you feel really uncomfortable, like people are going to laugh in my face uncomfortable. There's no way I could close a deal uncomfortable. If it doesn't create that effect in you, then it's not high enough. You need to increase it more. And then continue taking sales calls like you have the capacity and see, maybe you get 3 no's and then 2 yeses and you go, oh, then you can also model out through a financial model and say, well, what if our average selling price through this new pricing moved from $3,500 a month to $4,500 a month over the course of the next 12 months? What would that mean for our profitability and our business growth? And people, I mean, like when you model this out for folks, pricing can really, really, really quickly change the outlook of a business, really quickly, because your labor costs remain the same generally. You're already providing the service. So it's really just the perceived value that you're capturing by increasing pricing.
Yeah, and I want to comment on that for a second because I know I've heard you talk about this. One of the stories, Eli, that is interesting is I know at one point you started at 2,500 a month, and then it went to 45,000 at one point. So if we're talking like uncomfortable,
Yeah.
think of that. I mean, obviously it wasn't all at once. Like, hey, it's 2,500 now, it's 45,000,
Yeah.
but like you've lived that, and you kind of it's a serious. You put those next to each other, it's almost ridiculous. You're right. I mean,
Totally.
totally different. But anyways, first of all, Eli, I have one last question. I want to thank you for sharing your stories, your journey. I can go on and on with this and your experiences with all these companies, but um, I'd love to hear just some of your mentors and colleagues and some great advice that they've given you throughout the years. I mean, you mentioned Jason, who gave you advice in the recruiting industry. Who are some other mentors and colleagues that have kind of helped you along the way?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of friends and colleagues and just other agency folk that I really enjoy, and each of them brings something to my life and my energy. I mentioned Jason already. I think Tyler Lane is another great one. He runs Session Interactive. They're like SEO and paid media agency. He and I go out on mountain bike rides and just like he's always good at staying balanced. And I really respect that. Let's see, the guys over at Exec Viva, Phineas and Adnan, those guys run a tight ship. They help place really, really high quality executive assistants, for leaders at fast growing businesses, I think mostly in the tech sector, but, yeah, just the way that they operate and execute is really impressive to me. Kyle Hunt, he runs an agency ops group. It's like a paid community where you can learn from him. He's like scaled a bunch of agencies and is just like a wizard with agency ops. Duncan, of course, who introduced us. Man, Duncan is like, I want to be at Duncan when I grow up. He's got so much swagger and he's just like such a bright light of positive vibes in everything that he does. So yeah, I could keep going on. There are a bunch of people who are influential and positive influences in my day to day these days. So
I love it. Eli, first of all, I want to be the first one to thank you. Thanks for sharing the journey, your lessons. People can check out profit-labs.co to learn more and more episodes of the podcast. And we'll see everyone next time. Eli, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.